Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Lumio Palooza global event, where we are providing fun, fresh PD opportunities, highlighting how Lumio can provide a fluid workflow that benefits teachers and students. We will show you how to create lessons and activities focused on a variety of topics, including classroom instructional strategies. My name is Michelle Conway-Gray, and I'm a professional development specialist from New Jersey. This webinar, Transforming Students into Creators with Lumio, features Brian Lewis, an instructional technology specialist from Georgia. I had the opportunity to be with Brian in person last week. We encourage participation. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat box. You'll have me and Tanya in the chat answering questions during this presentation, and we will either answer them directly or integrate them into the flow or hold them to be answered at the end of the session during our Q&A period. We will be sharing resources from today's webinar in the chat. Also, this is a big one. For participating today, a certificate will be provided after you complete a brief survey. Don't forget, today's session is being recorded. You also will get the file resources, and you will receive these resources via email early next week. We would love for you to share what you learned from this session on social media, along with this graphic, tag Lumio Social, and hashtag Lumio Challenge and Lumio Palooza. Be entered to win a gift card. I just popped the social graphic in the chat. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Brian, our expert, so that we can dive into today's webinar, Transforming Students into Creators with Lumio.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bobby Brian Lewis. Most people call me Brian Lewis, but we're going to go through and I want to show you how to make your students creators in Lumio. One of the big things that we see as far as teachers and educators is that our students are not creating. They're being consumers of the technology. So one thing we really want to look at here is how our students can be producers, not consumers of the technology. One thing that we notice in classrooms, a lot of times our students are watching videos for 20, 30 minutes. Then teachers then maybe lecture to them. And so they're just consuming all of the technology. Example being, let's look at some data here. Students spend about 2.5 hours a day on YouTube. Not playing video games, that's just YouTube, watching YouTube videos. So they're consuming that information. Instead of being producers, they could also create their own YouTube channel and be producers of that technology, or create anything using technology. So a great tool, we can use Lumio to have them make or be producers of technology. The next data we're going to look at here is, on average, students spend about 1 hour a day gaming. So think about that. 3/24 of the day is spent consuming some type of technology. They're probably not producing anything in the game here. They're just playing a game to make it to the next level and those type of things. But so you're looking at about 1/8 of their day is spent just consuming technology. And that is what we're talking about, not listening to music or those type of things, but just consuming. So what we really want to do is turn our students into producers of technology. One of the tools that we use for that in our district is to have teachers use Lumio. And then we also, though, got to be mindful of how we're getting our students to create inside of Lumio and make it worthwhile. A basic thing would be, if you know what DOK levels are, we want a really high DOK level for them to create inside of Lumio. It's not just going to be something that they're going to be a very simple fix to the problem. One thing I've noticed today, I'm going to share some things with you. Over here on the left-hand side is the toolbar for the teacher. I'm going to have you join my class real quick. So people that want to join, you can either scan that QR code, or you can go to hellosmart.com. My code is 113565. You can join the class that way. A great feature we like to do in our Canvas courses is to copy and paste this link in there. So the students can click on the link from their Canvas homepage and be able to access the lesson And then if we need to turn this lesson into a homework assignment, we can always use the share link for this lesson and put it in the homework assignment that way, or we can share it via our social media, or we use Remind to contact our parents, so we can also share the link in there also, so the parents can also access some of the lesson content.
Brian, can you drop that link in the chat for me?
I can.
Perfect.
And we're going to give a few more, maybe 30 seconds. We have over 20 something people in here already joining the lesson. And the first thing I want to do is show you while we're waiting. We're just going to give a 30 more seconds. But before I do that, I'm going to ask everyone a question. So if I go over to the plus over here and I click on the plus, I can do a shout it out activity real quick. And this is back to one of these things to where we having our students produce in our classroom. I'm not up here just lecturing to my students the whole time. I'm getting the participation from them here. And one of a simple thing that we do in some of our math classes is we do a shout it out activity. So I'm going to start that. And I need you to give me the question to the number 48. And I'm going to leave that wide open. So any way you can solve or give me the question that equals 48, you can type in your answers, and we can send those to the board up here. And now we've got a class discussion of what's happening here. So we have up here, we have what is 6 times 8, 6 times 8, 12 times 4. Could we have used integers and used two negatives to give us 48? That's another solution here. Someone says, how many contiguous states are in the United States that are touching? So that would tell us there's 48. So there's all different ways of solving that here. And we're just getting a lot of different information here. This is a great way for an entry ticket in your classroom, or that activator to get everyone's mind thinking. What is Jimmy Johnson's car number? That is true. It's 48. All those different things in here. Someone put 50 minus 2. If I click on the answers here, I can actually make them larger so the whole class can read. Or I could actually hide this page instead of showing it to the class and collect all this information. One thing I really like about this is that I can come back later and pull this information back again. And that way, if I need to go back and look at to see who participated, those type of things. Someone had a word problem down here. How many eggs are in 4 dozen cartons? So that would tell you 4 times 12. Great ways of having our students become producers of information. So we're going to move on to the next one. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you another question in a shout it out again. And the reason why I want to do that is I want to show you, you can do these back to back to back to back. So here, I want to know if you start with a liquid, what are the states of matter if we start with a liquid after that? So you can explain your reasoning after this. So we're going to start with liquid. Is it going to be a solid? Is it going to be a gas? You tell me, and then tell me the process from that point on. And here we would just have to write a sentence out or type a sentence out after that. And someone said solid if it freezes. But what we want to say here is I'm not letting you sit here and just listen to me. You're having to participate in the discussion, and you're having to create something for me. And the more these students are thinking, the more we're going to get them engaged with us. And we're getting people to explain their answers here. This answer here, liquids can turn to a solid by freezing it. A liquid can turn to a gas by heating it to a boiling point. So all of this is great ways we can start that discussion in our classroom. Just some simple ways of showing you. And guess what I did? I clicked on the plus over here and I added a shout it out. I didn't do anything else. All I did was add a shout it out. Another simple way to do this is I could click on a whiteboard. And now what I can do is I can have you participate here. I want you to solve, and I'm going to do a math problem just because it's an easy thing for me to add to, but it could be a science problem or whatever. But I want you to solve this equation in any way you want to. You can use your math facts, you can use counters, you can use negative and positive chips, anything you want to do to solve this. Oh, but can you write on this right now? No, I'm going to make this into a handout so everyone has their own worksheet, or what I like to call it, a proof sheet. They are going to prove what they know. So as you click start, all your names are going to appear up here on the panel. And so I'm going to let you work on this. When you're finished with your answer, you're going to see a done button at the right top. If you'll click done, it will give me a green check next to your name, letting me know that I'm able now to look at your information. And down here at the bottom right is the teacher. I have a teacher handout if I need to show or demo what to do. But I'm just going to let you work on this. And if I want to, I'm just going to click on some random people's names and look at their answers. I hope no one minds sharing. So they gave an answer here. I'm going to progress through and see the other answers in here. So some people have some counting pieces here they're making. And I'm just progressing through, seeing the different. I'm going to close my answer here and show you the class and how many people are on here. I recognize a lot of familiar names here. Some people I have worked with over the years, I can see. Again, all I did was click on the plus, did a whiteboard activity, added a problem to it. Could I have added a question? Of course. And I could have you solve something and kind of prove your answer. Again, we need our students producing instead of being consumers. So I'm going to close this activity, go down to the next one I've already created. These are some ones that I've already front loaded for the activity. One thing I want to show you here is that there are cartoons, templates inside of the Lumio library. These are some example cartoons. And as you can see here, the bottom one is talking about barnacles sticking to this well. What is that called? And so all of that is a way of just creating our vocabulary. And what we want our students to do here is be able to use this information in a fun but creative way. This is going to open the door to a lot of our students who have that creative piece here. These are just some example cartoons. I'm going to go down to the next one. Same thing here. We're talking about evaporation. They made a cartoon on evaporation. Here's a cartoon talking about numbers. And then if I wanted to, I could have you create on this page by going up to the people. I'm going to click individual handout, or I could put you in groups. But I'm just going to do a handout activity. And what I want you to do is you click start here. You now have to create a cartoon, and I now could put some parameters on that. You must create one on what we're studying about the states of matter. You must create one about integers. You must create one about history we're talking about. But before we do that, I want to show you some of the tools you have access to. Over here, you have a pen you can write with. You also have an eraser. If you haven't seen the new stickers we have in Lumio, they're here. Also, I could add shapes or lines. So if we're talking about creating a cartoon about different shapes, I could have my shape people in here. If I want to look for an image and I'm looking for a man to add to my cartoon, I can simply search man and I could add a person here. I could add different items. Also, if I'm looking to add different images to my cartoon, I could import images from my computer. Also, I made the talking bubble up here is its own little infinite corner. So if I need to, I can make it bigger. And then if I need to after that, I can put my text tool and I can type in what the talk bubble needs to say. If I need to add some math pieces here, some high level math or chemistry equations, I could put that in here also inside of my talk bubble. And it doesn't have to be all 6 frames. You could make 3, you could make 2, whatever you need to make. But the main thing is I got all of this straight out of the Lumio library. I didn't create this. This was already made. So a very quick way to make our students producers of technology, not just consumers. Next, we're going to move down to our next slide. If anyone has a question, we might can stop real quick if someone does have a question in the middle, but and you can just let me know. Next, we're going down to our next slide. This is another one, just a 3-frame. Got this straight out of Lumio library. The next one down here are movie posters. This was a big hit with my students because they were able to think of themselves as directors or maybe someone who is in that creative space of creating posters. Yes, we can do posters in many different places, but a simple location to do it is inside of Lumio. and just give some parameters to our students. This is a simple way of putting here some information. There's a link down here to some Google slides that are already created that we can pull in. But it's just a simple way of creating movie posters. And again, our main thought here is having our students be creators. Go down to the next one. Is a blank slide here. One thing I do want to show you that I think gets overlooked a lot in Lumio, if you want to click on this activity and play this super sort, I'm going to just show the modeling piece to you also. So kinetic and potential energy, you can sort these into the different spaceships. What I'm going to do though is look up here at the data, and I'm able to see how many people are playing that activity. If I want to, I can show results here. I can also show the student progress, and this will tell me what students are getting answers correct, how many they got right, how many they got wrong. All that information gives me data here, and that's always a great way to use with our classroom, especially when a lot of our administrators want to see this data. I'm going to show the data to everyone real quick, just to kind of give you an example. You really have to look at the data to see, because everyone pretty much gets a green or blue line. Even though they might have a full green line, they still might have missed a couple. And the best thing about this is we're able to get our students engaged in our lesson. And I'm going to show you how we're going to use this in just a second. But this is what the data looks like. So I'm able to get a data to see how many people are getting them correct. So everyone's had an opportunity to play this. If we look here, the most incorrect answer was a candy bar. The most correct answer was a book on the table. I've seen that example for the last 50 years, it seems. That's potential energy, book on the table. Now, let's go down to the next slide. So if you wasn't finished, remember I'm in control. Now, this is an activity. I need you to create your own super sort. All I did was snip how you create inside of Lumio. What would be a great way to do this would be have your students create this way. When the students get this created, now they get to go to my smartboard and create this activity up under my account, because as a teacher, I'm going to capture all of this student creation up under my account so I can use these later. And that's a great way of sharing your student work with other classes. And now that student has participated in creating stuff for you. One of my biggest things is I'm very lazy. So I want all my students to create these as much as possible for me. So what I would have to do is go to the people, do an individual handout, and you as the student now would click start, and you now would create a sorting activity. And it could be even and odd numbers. It could be numbers greater than 10, numbers less than 10, anything we could sort information, solid and liquids, gases, any way we could sort information, we could create it here. Another way we've used this before in math, helping some of our teachers, is this equals 24, this equals 48. And this could be a different assortment of information. Another super sort activity here would be something where our students are able to go in here, and this happened before the 1900s. This happened after the 1900s. So historical events, if we're talking about history and those type of things. So again, just one of those ways to get our students engaged. Think about it. We play these games, but a lot of times our students are not able to create these games, and we don't give them the opportunity to create them. And as a teacher, I want to capture all this because I can now use these games next year. So it's a great way for us to do this. If anyone has an activity they've created and they want to share it, if you'll click done, I can click on your name real quick, and just to kind of give some ideas. I saw some people take their done away, which is fine. But if you do want to share what you created, click done. Best thing about sharing this in a live classroom is it gives other students the ability to go, oh, I see how you created that. This gave me an idea of thinking this. So I'm going to click on this person that has clicked the done button and see what they've done. Vitamins and minerals, exactly. That would be a great way of having a sort there. We could do several different ways. I know this is putting a lot of people on the spot here creating, but this would not be a 3-minute lesson. This would be maybe that work session in their lesson that they're actually creating here. So let's look, see who else has created anything. Okay, equations and expressions. Yes, yes, yes. All that would work. So just a great way of doing this. Now, think of all the labs that we have, activities. We could do the same thing. And I'm going to show you some of this that's been created so you might can steal some of this and take it for your own. The next one is this. Here's one that's very simple. You can have the spaceships and they can do the same thing here. We can come down here to the sort here where they could do a lab sorting organizer here, same thing. And it just kind of gives that theme that a lot of our students enjoy. Another activity here, lab sorter, another one here, some lists, those type of things. Could we do the other activity to where they're putting in the game? Yes, they could come in here and they could do the game show. We could just have them create multiple choice this way too. Anybody have any questions about this? At the end, I think we'll have some more questions, but just a great way for our students to be creating with some of our content.
Hey, Brian, you've had a good amount of questions in the chat. The one is, I think about the shout it outs. Like if you navigate away from it, how can you get back to it and see student responses?
Okay. So we're going to go back to that page way up at the top we started. Every time I do a shout it out, it adds another page to it. So my file could grow. So if I go back to this one and I go to resume class, you're able to, all that data saved for you. So as a teacher, I'm able to go back and collect this data, take screenshots or whatever I need, and be able to save this data for later. Okay. The other one we did first, this is the data from that. And so we're able to see who participated here also. We can turn off the names if we want to, but sometimes I've used this where we give credit for like a check-in for the students. I'm going to scroll back to where we're at on our slide. One other thing we're going to look at, and I know we're running out of time very quickly here, but timelines. This was made inside of Lumio. So timelines could be created in here also. And all you have to do is put a description of the event on the timeline, the year you wanted it to be there. All of this is editable. So if you scroll down here, we're able to see all of this can be moved and we can pull all these and we can create the date, the time, we can create timelines in here. Back to our labs real quick. The order activity inside of labs could also be used for timelines also, being able to put those in the correct order. Go back down to the next one. These are some we have here. So again, what I'm going to do is turn this over to you for about 3 minutes just so you can look. And I'm going to make this into an individual handout. If you click start, you now have the ability to create your own timeline. I'm not really giving you any parameters here. I just want you to play around with the tools. Use the infinite cloner at the bottom right. It shows you, it's able to pull those out so you're able to make your own timeline. Also, if you double click on the years, you can edit those. So if you need to change the years to a different year, you can. Just a very simple tool to double click on text and change text. We're going to give you about a minute to play around with this just so you can, if you haven't seen it or haven't touched it, you're able to look at it and see. Also, remember that we can add pictures here. Also, at the top left over here, we can add pictures. We can search the internet and we could find historical pictures to add to our timeline. Again, if we're talking about history event, we could have our students recreate this for us. And so we'll give you opportunity. Okay. Again, we're going to jump to something and I just want to show you how you can create really quick. If I click on the plus again, I can do a shout it out activity. I could do a whole whiteboard activity also. So then I'm having you participate in this activity at any time during the lesson. And I think that probably gets overlooked more than anything in the lesson. We're going to do a whole class whiteboard. And now everyone is able to participate in this. I'm going to ask that you find a picture of your favorite animal by using the picture icon over here and putting it on the screen. This might be how we're going to start talking about life cycles. If I need to, see, we're getting a lot of participation in this. Everyone loves animals, okay? Goodness, it's like we're having a collage. Um, if I click on one of these pictures, one thing I do want to show you is it tells me who added this picture. I'm also have the ability to delete it. You know, our kids would never do something inappropriate, but you can always delete the picture if you needed to. And again, we have a bunch of animals we could put up here. I could have asked you to send me producers, consumers, decomposers also. So all of that could be ways that we're asking you to participate and you're just not consuming the information. Again, y'all, I didn't make something that took me 20 minutes. I asked a question and made a whiteboard for the whole class. And this is now one of those activities that we can talk about, or kids can say, I added so and so, I added so and so. So now we're getting that class participation and that class ownership. Okay, give everybody a second to finish adding that picture. Just a very simple way of adding to the class discussion.
Brian, can you point out that image tool one more time?
Over here on the left-hand side, go over here to the image icon, and we can search an image here. And as the teacher, I can move around some of these images. And again, if I click on the image and drop down the caret, I'm able to see who participated, who added this. So all of this is just a great way to get everyone engaged in the classroom. And again, we're not sitting there consuming. And are they awake? You don't know. I can't see all y'all, so I'm assuming with all these pictures that y'all added 20 pictures a piece. There's so many pictures on here, but just a great way of getting that participation from your classroom, finding out what students are listening or paying attention. We're now going to move to another slide real quick. Thank y'all all for your pictures. I love animals also. So other things that are created inside of Lumio that are very easy. Here's a 10 frame, got it straight out of the Lumio library. Again, to make this more of a K1, K2 activity, I'm going to make this into a handout so everyone has their own copy. And I need for you to have two numbers that equal 8, and you will put your chips that will equal 8. So very quickly, all I did was add a template from the Lumio library. Could I have 10 of these in a lesson? Of course. And I could have my students work on these while I'm monitoring them. Or if I go over here to the people, I can do student pacing, and you now can move at your own pace throughout the lesson. Or I could have different groups in here also. I could have, I need you to do slides 30 through 35. The red group's going to do slides 35 through 40. The orange group's going to do slides 25 through 30. So I could then turn everybody on student pacing and you can move at your own speed. So I'm going to do that real quick just so you can see that your buttons, your arrows at the bottom left are going to be activated. So I'm going to click on that. And now you can move throughout the lesson at your own pace. I'm going to give you a few seconds of freedom and then I'm going to bring you back. That's the beauty of Lumio. I'm able to release you and then bring you back, those type of things. So hopefully people are creating in here. Let's see what we've got. We got some of these people have created their lesson here. They were able to pull up their chips. They're able to add. I'm able to help also if I needed to as the teacher. Go back over to this student, same way, able to help them if they need it. I could also add a sticker to this student, and I'm now able to put a sticker on the student for them completing the activity. So I'm able to give that feedback. Another way I'm able to give this feedback is click on the A, and I'm able to type in, great job. And then I could change the font size, put it all over their page. Believe it or not, I've seen high school students that get excited about these stickers. So just because you think it may be elementary love stickers, no, the high school kids love stickers as much as they just don't get them as much. So here's a sticker I gave that student, and only that student is seeing that feedback in here. Also, if I needed to help them with their numbers, maybe they're a little small, I could actually go down here and grab them and resize them for them. All you have to do is usually show this once and they're experts at it. Again, I'm going to come back, pull everybody back together on this slide. So now you have to all come back to slide 30. I'm going to click on this student's work, see what they did again. They did a little different. They did 3+5. So I'm now going to go back over to the stickers, and I'm able to give them a sticker that says A plus, and you're able to see the grade. So I'm giving my students instant feedback here. So if they're not doing something and I don't see a check by their name, I might go in and look at their paper and, ask a question. Example being, like, if I don't see a student that's doing something, let's just say it's I'm going to choose someone who is. So Susan, you say she wasn't doing anything, I could write a message on her paper and say, how can I help you? Do you need help? And now I'm able to communicate with that student and ask them very quickly, how can I help them? I did not call that student out in front of the class. I did this quietly between me and the student. So we're able to communicate. And if that student doesn't really sometimes have a voice in my class, this gives them that voice where no one is hearing them except for me. And maybe they didn't get the instructions. Maybe they didn't hear it clearly. Maybe they don't understand. Maybe they need more support. So those type of things. So just a great way of creating an activity here on the go. I'm going down to my next slide. So keep following. We're running out of time quickly. Also in the Lumio library here. So example being here, I have this activity, get everyone's mind thinking. I'm going to put us a word in here, and I'm going to say, being I'm from Georgia, I'm going to put the state of Georgia here. And I need a non-example of Georgia, some characteristics of Georgia, the definition of Georgia, an example. So what I'll do again is make it into a handout. This could be any type of vocabulary that we're talking about. Reason why I picked Georgia is because I didn't want to pick something like heat or states of matter, just because I think that's simple. This kind of makes you think a little bit more about it. We teach Georgia history in Georgia, so we have different characteristics that our state has, similar to other states. We're not going to spend much time on this. Time is running out very quickly. But think of any vocabulary word you could put in here. Do I have to have this vocabulary word uploaded? No. I could hand out different activities for all students to define, and every page could be a different vocabulary word. Once it's in there, then students can work on their vocab this way. Okay, give you a second just to look and see. You go back over here again. You can add text by clicking on the A. You can add pictures, stickers, shapes here also to our template. We're going to move down to our next one. This is a Venn diagram straight out of the Lumio library again. You can have your students put the two topics and then tell what's similar. So if we put a square and a parallelogram, we could add that up here, those type of things, and whatever's common in the middle. Straight out of the library, y'all. A lot of this stuff we're not going to create. One big thing that I found in the Lumio library that's very great, very good, is the social media templates. So here's the TikTok profile here. I cannot really think of many students that are not on TikTok, so this would have something that they can relate to. Here's an Instagram profile. Okay, Bill Shakespeare. How many posts he has, how many followers, how many people he's following, his profile description, maybe different scenes of something that he might have wrote in the past, his story highlights here. And this is something that your students could create. All you have to do is give them an example like this. And then as we go down to the next page, they're now able to go in, if I made this into a handout, and they're able to create their own profile name. This could be any historical figure. Could this be a vocabulary word? Of course. This could also be, if we were talking about a decomposer, a consumer, if we were talking about any type of vocab for our science, we could put it in here. All of that could be in here. And again, all this came straight out of the Lumio library. Here's another example here. Another example. These are just some templates. Here's the TikTok for Joan of Arc. Here's the blank to share with your students. We're just going through and showing you one. Here's a Facebook profile for Harriet Tubman. You're able to see this information here. Who's her friends? What relationship would this be, especially historically? Frederick Douglass. Go back down here. This is your template here to add their own content, to find who they wanted to on Facebook. Great, great, great way of making them think and making them create. A good question here would be, who's their friends? Why would they be their friend? It has to be someone for probably the same time frame. Moving back down through our social media stuff, we're going to scroll and try to jump ahead just a little bit. The last thing I want to show you before we got about 5 minutes, Pet Labs. If you haven't seen Pet Labs, you're missing out. This is where our students have to create. If I click on start here and I choose an atom, I now can have them create any atom here. Now, how can I capture this? Well, once they create their atom, then what I'm going to do, I created hydrogen. I can now use my snipping tool. They can take a picture of this. And then on the next page, I have a blank piece of paper. And I'm going to make that into a handout. And you now get to all upload your piece, your snipping, your picture on that page. And that's how you're going to turn in your assignment. So it's a very simple way of doing that. I'm going to give you an opportunity to play around with this real quick. You have about 30 seconds to a minute. And so you have the opportunity to create here. If you need help, you have your periodic table up here. Anything in FetLab, if you'll click on it, it will give you different information, drop down. It will tell you if it's stable, unstable, all those types of things here. First grade students love playing with this because they're creating something. It doesn't only pertain to high school chemistry, or in Georgia, 8th grade studies a lot about the different elements. Okay, again, I would ask you to do a snipping tool. I'm going to come down here, the circuit, ask you to create a basic circuit here. So if you click start, you would have to add your wire, and I'm going to add a closed circuit, and then we could create a very simple closed circuit here. I'm going to add a switch. Again, how can I get my students to show me their work? Because I don't want them sitting here watching me. What I would do is have them use their snipping tool, or if you're on a Mac, use your snipping tool. Then as they go back down to the next slide is slide 48. This is where they would have a handout. They will click start just like you've been doing, and they will upload their work in there. And then I'm able to see all their work.
Brian, can you do me a huge favor while we're here? Can you just go to the 3 lines and show the share links for if you want students like come back in and do it later?
So if I click on the 3 links over the 3 lines over here, I'm able to go to share, get a student link, copy and paste that to wherever I wanted to, could send it in an email, could send it in a text, and I could share this. When students click on it, they need to log in with their email, and then they have access to this lesson. Any notes that I've inked on this lesson are now for them to see. If I have a teacher that I really like and I want to collaborate with them, I can copy the teacher link and share with them. And then we could share this same resource. If they get none of my student data here, it starts out with their own. They just get all the presentation that I created, but no student data. It doesn't belong to me anymore. Okay. So if we go down to the last slide here, my students would click start. Once they click start, they have a blank piece of paper, and I say copy and paste your work here. They would go over to the picture icon. They would go to the pictures, and they would select their online image, and they would put it here, the one that they snipped. And now if I'm able to go back, any of my students that have this information, if you have this, Susan, please keep your green check there. I will look at your page. That way, if we click on Susan's name, we're able to see her. She copied and pasted her information, see how easy that is. I know real quick Susan got the concept of closed circuit. You can't fake this with me because you created it. You don't get to choose A, B, C, or D and move on. She had to create it here. So this is exactly why I would do this activity, because there's no way of cheating me on this activity. Again, all it is a blank piece of paper, and students who snip their work are able to show me their work. And this is a real good hack for using Pet Labs in your classroom. Okay. Again, to close out our lesson, if you need to share this lesson later, you can click on the 3 lines, go to share. If you need to share this with a teacher, this is the teacher link. This is the student link. We use Remind, so we would copy and paste that and send it in Remind, or we would put it on Canvas, one of the two. All this information gets saved here. So if I ever need to come back and see your work, I can. Again, to close it out, if I need a closing activity, I can do a shout it out again. And now we have our exit ticket for this lesson. We're going to move into our final slide, which is our resources here. And now we will have it open for we have any questions. Thank you a lot for coming. I hope you enjoyed how to create, how to make your students be creators, not just consumers.
Brian, this was one of the most active chats I've been in. They were asking amazing questions.
I saw the numbers up there popping in the chat, and I was going, "What are they talking about?" But I don't
My
have
fingers were moving so fast. So was Tanya's. So I'm just gonna let it linger. I just dropped the survey in the chat. Super excited by all these activities, what you showed us today. I already obviously had the opportunity to save the file. Everyone else is going to get the file when we send our follow-ups. It will also be available on our landing page and also our Lumio Academy. So there's going to be a lot of places where people can get your amazing resources. So Brian, I just want to thank you for sharing all of your insights with us today. For all of our participants, here are 3 things that you can do next. Obviously, social sharing. We would love to hear we would love if you could share what you learned from Brian's session today. Share your thoughts on social. I also put Brian your contact in the chat if you want to tag Brian. Thoughts on social media along with this graphic. Make sure you're tagging Lumio Social, hashtag Lumio Palooza, Lumio Challenge to be entered to win a gift card. I'm going to drop these resources right now in the chat so everyone has them. So I just dropped the resources as well. You'll find that we do webinars all throughout the school year. We pick up people like Brian to help us out throughout the school year to do webinars with us. We also have a Lumio Academy where all of that good stuff will also be available in that Lumio free self-paced academy. We also have a very special summer promotion going on for Lumio Spark, which is our top tier plan. Right now, the Lumio Spark plan is going to be buy one, get one free. So share that last link I just put in the chat with your administrator to take advantage of this offer. We are going to send some follow-up resources and recordings, and you should see them in your inbox early next week so you can review any information you missed, like the snipping tool and some other things that Brian went over today. Or you can watch the sessions you weren't able to attend live in. So again, thank you all for joining our Lumio Palooza session with Brian. We hope to see you all at a future webinar. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.